everyone. My name is Mike Soler, broker and founder of Phantom Real Estate, and I'm here with Miguel Molinares, one of our awesome agents. I'm stepping in for my wife's podcast, Built for Legacy. So I'm taking her place today, so bear with me. So Miguel, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, we want to create, episodes where we have conversations about broker and agent, because believe it or not, I think it's two different spectrums, right? When you are a broker, you see kind of business in a different point of view, and when you're an agent, you see the business a different point of view. Correct. At the end of the day, at some point, those 2 points of view, it will merge together. But yeah, we wanted to create something where new agents or seasoned agents can see out there, what it's market about. Nowadays. So I'm glad you invite me. I'm really excited to create this.
I know we've been talking a while about this. Now that you mentioned that, so from an agent's perspective,
right?
What's your advice to new agents that are looking to join the field?
Well, nowadays, I think it's you got to be more prepared. You got to find your niche. You got to do a little bit more research, because back in the days, I've been an agent a little bit for over a decade. And before it was you become an agent and then you start helping your family and close friends to either do rental, sell, or you become an agent because your sister wants to sell the house.
Yeah,
remember that?
Sphere of influence.
Yeah.
My first sale was my cousin.
Oh, there you go.
He sold Snapper Creek, and then he bought one on 137 and 160 down there. So,
well, one of my best friends, he became an agent a couple of years ago just to sell his house.
Yeah.
And because he didn't want to pay no commission and this and that. And I always say, getting the license is not just to get a license. It's actually a profession. You become an advisor. You become, you influence others people's family, and their life. So
we spoke about that before, that it's actually rewarding to help somebody find their own house and help them live the American dream.
Yeah.
And everything else.
No, and also advise them. Like I have, they started as clients, now we became friends when they want to make an investment. And after we sit down and talk and we analyze and I give them my advice and the professional point of view, they end up not doing the investment because it was going to be a bad investment, or people they want to buy in certain areas because of the price. And then you advise them and guide them why they shouldn't buy in that in that area, according to their lifestyle. Right. So yeah, it's really important for you to know what you're going to do with the license.
Yeah,
it
is. And like you mentioned before, you always talk about a lot of research. So
right.
I know your clients are lucky because you do a lot of research for them. And like I tell them, a lot of my agents, it all starts with asking questions.
Exactly.
You need to ask questions to see. You're not the one buying the house. Sometimes we get emotionally involved in the house. Oh, this house is beautiful. No, it doesn't matter. Maybe you like it. The client does it. So I ask them, do you want one story? Do you want two stories? Do you need a garage? Do you need a pool?
Right.
How much land do you want? Could it have HOAs? Some people love HOAs.
Yeah.
Because they want uniformity and they want everything in order. Some people like to live in a gated community, some hate it. So we need to ask a lot of questions. Not only like, whoa, we know what we're doing, we're the professional. We have to ask them the questions and then cater to their needs.
Right. Like I have a client, I sold them already about four houses in the past, I would say 6 years. And she loved Lennar. She loved the big community. She loved the HOA. She loved the clubhouse. And there's no way that we can tell her or, trying to guide her to buy a regular single family home.
A lot of people do. And then other people, when you go to new constructions, find out, do they have a CDD?
Right.
How much is a CDD?
Exactly.
Will it go up? Is there a clubhouse and a pool and a gym that you're not going to use, that you're going to be paying $300 or $400 a month in maintenance?
No, and also warranties. What kind of warranty the house have with a new developer?
Exactly. People like that because it's a new house. Some people like an older house. They can maybe get like a seller credit or something and do everything their own style and put in their own flooring and their own kitchen. And so we need to ask a lot of questions. Not like we're the ones that are dictating anything.
Right.
We actually and real estate agents don't realize this. The principal is the buyer, the seller. We work for them.
Right. So that's what I tell when I do coaching, and I do coaching all the realtors. I tell them, listen, at the end of the day, your client is your boss. If you put it that way, because you gotta. And I tell them, listen, like I have a questionnaire that it's we title it "Get to Know Your Client." Yeah. And we ask them all these questions. And you really need to get to know your client so you can guide them and advise them, to what according to their needs.
And speaking of this and asking them for their needs and everything else, to bring up the topic that we had talked about, this whole new
Yes.
AI and the technology is great. I'm not, you need it to grow.
It's a great tool.
And everything else. But, and not to say that, we're the best thing in the world or whatever you want to call it. But
Right.
AI, as far as real estate, okay, it's good to help an agent.
Right.
Sell your house, whatever. People like to do a little bit of research with AI. But I mean, myself, when I used to do, now since you mentioned I'm the broker, I'm trying to help our agents and grow the company. I do a few deals a year or whatever it is. But when I was really out there in the field, you bump into so many situations.
Yes.
That I believe AI or technology, and it's not so we can get the sale, but not take care of. You
Right.
have a loan commitment period. You have an inspection period.
No, it's a lot of legalities behind it.
A lot of legalities. You have the appraisal. Then you
Right.
need a 4-point win mitigation to be able to obtain insurance.
No, and like I told, like especially sellers, I can sell it on my own. Okay, who's gonna cover those legalities from that contract that you signed? Do you know them? Do you know like the chapters of the contract? Because not because you're selling the house doesn't mean that you're not responsible to to be how do you call it? It's to get compliance on that contract. So AI, it will help you to interpret the contract, but she's not gonna be telling you.
It does some things, and going back to what I was saying about the insurance.
Right.
I think it's been a few houses, but like about 2 or 3 sales, my last previous sales, I had a house had about 25 broken tiles.
Right.
I had to call a roofer. Do you do just tile jobs or whatever? Yeah,
Right.
I replace broken tiles. I had to get the seller to agree, pay for it, because the buyer cannot go up on the roof and fix it. It's not his house yet.
Right.
Now, the buyer cannot obtain insurance with 25 broken tiles.
Correct.
So you have to negotiate that. And I'm sure you bumped into situations maybe like that, or maybe with a double tap on the electric panel.
Yeah, I bumped into a situation where the inspection, they have about 76, the inspectors that mark it as red.
Okay.
Or really pay attention to it. 76 of them. So the buyer got really spooked, and they were minor things.
Yeah.
So we were talking about earlier. AI is not gonna tell you how to tell to the buyer or the buyer's agent. Hey, there's 76, but it's a double tap, or it's a GFCI that is not working correctly.
Of course.
Little things, cosmetic stuff. That
And not only that, but then there's a loan commitment period if you're
Right.
working with the buyer. Loan commitment period is due, and you don't turn in a release and cancellation along with an extension.
Right.
One overseas.
Right, right.
Don't sign the extension, the release and cancellation kicks in. These are things that a buyer may do on their own and go out there and not realize that it's day number 29, and they could lose
Their deposit.
10, 20, $30,000 deposit.
Correct.
And not have the chance to buy a house again because all the money gets lost, and
Right.
the seller could keep the money, or you could be the seller and have a buyer back out of it for X, Y, or Z reason. And who's going to negotiate? Because like I say, AI is great, and technology, we need it. Who's going to negotiate this? Be on top.
Right.
Step in. I've had deals where I've spent countless days with the same negotiations because
Right.
they needed an extension. The seller didn't want to give it. The buyer needed it. So what happened? Okay, we're going to do it. We want another $5,000 or $10,000 deposit to be held in escrow, and if it doesn't close, the seller gets to keep it. Why? Because the seller, it happened to me on the last transaction I did. The seller had to pay mortgage for another 2 months almost.
Wow.
So these are negotiations and things that technology cannot do for you.
Right. Well, I had a situation where, it was an old client of mine. He decided to sell his house on his own,
Okay.
And then he told me, listen, I'm gonna try it on my own. We're not gonna, work for me for now, and see what happens. I say, hey, by all means, if you have any questions, let me know. Well, I explained them everything that we're talking about. I explained, listen, it's not only that you hiring a salesperson, because to sell a product, anybody can sell it, pretty much. But it's just finding an expert, on the subject. Well, long story short, the appraisal came back. And he came back $20,000 under, and he didn't know what to do with it. So then he called me.
Technology is not going to negotiate that.
Yeah, the technology said that the house, it was worth, the amount that he listed it for.
Okay.
And but then the appraisal came back. Well, the appraisal is an expert on the market, and so and he came back
The
20.
bank, they're,
Right.
they're the ones that are giving the money, so.
$20,000 under, and then he called me, and now he decided to hire me, as his representative. And when I did the comps, the old-fashioned way we normally know how to do it, I sent a appraisal dispute to the lender. So we end up getting not the full 20, but at least we got $18,000, on top of that. So we were close to what he wanted it. But again, talking about what we were talking about, you need that human touch, you cannot only rely on your Google or whatever you do your research and just leave it at that. You need that professional person to do the negotiations for you.
And that's another thing too. Like I know you've been in this 10 years. I've been in this 22 years.
Imagínate.
22 years. So back then it was like the buyer would, not that they don't confide in us, but they will confide in you a little bit more now because of the technology. Then people go on Zillow, they go on realtor.com, they go on whatever site, they type in the address. My house is worth this much. So we do a CMA.
Right.
We go to IMF, we go to Realtor, wherever we have to go to, we go to RPR. I usually like to add up 3 and divide it.
Right.
Or whatever it is, and it's a different number usually than what they think it is. So what happens? We list a house, way overpriced, it sits there, it gets what we call in the industry, it gets stale.
Right.
It's been there so many days because the houses move the most when they're first listed, is when you get the most action. And what happens? The listing expires, nothing happens, it didn't sell because it was grossly overpriced.
Right. And that's the disadvantage, because when the buyer comes in and they see the house has been listed for 190 days, 220 days, there's something wrong, or they're going to negotiate to the very bottom. And they're going to offer you, very low price.
They'll think the appraisal didn't come in, or
right.
the inspection came in, with a lot of damage.
No, the things that I always get, it's been in the market for 120 days, but you don't take my deal. Instead of keep waiting and wasting money and time. But unfortunately, there's people out there that they don't know that, and AI is not going to give you those advices,
Like they could give you a number, like anything else, like all these other sites that I mentioned. But there's a lot of negotiations. And you mentioned a little while ago, anybody can sell a product. This is not a product. This is your single most important and largest investment that you do in your life. It's not a lease that you lease. You lease a car. It's happened to me. I lease a car. I love it. A few weeks go by, I'm like, it's not what I thought it was.
Right.
In 2 years, you're done. You turn in the lease. Now, you signed a 30-year mortgage on this house. If you don't like it, let's say you can't sell it, or you bought it for over what it was, or somebody that you pay, above market value, and now you can't sell it. You're stuck with something.
Remember what happened in the pandemic? There was a lot of people. I have a few customers that were, don't worry, I'll pay $20,000 over the price value or whatever they're asking for.
Yeah.
And then I said, but have you taken in consideration how long it will take you from the purchase, the price that you're purchasing now, for the market to reach that cap? And then after that is when you're gonna start making money. And they were like, oh, I never thought of that.
And I bumped into situations where I've had, let's say, I've seen a rental that's been $200-300 a month more over. Let's lower the rental. They don't want to lower the rental. Okay, so now 4 months have gone by, right? 4 months. If we would have lowered it to $3,000 instead of, let's say, or $2,700 instead of $3,000, for $300 a month times a year is $3,600.
Right.
Let's say we would have rented it at $3,000. We've already lost $12,000
a year
and counting.
Right.
So it's like, please let us guide you. If you trust me and you hire me, sell your house, or you're gonna buy a house with me, have a little bit of faith. Like I say, believe in the Creator. Put your life in God's hands and let Him guide you. Not the word of God, but let us guide you. So you can't go to a dentist and say, wait, don't use that drill bit. Use the other one.
But you mentioned something that is very important, is trust. I think a lot of, it's one of the things that I mentioned to a lot of realtors. It's, once you get to know your customer, you're going to earn their trust.
Yeah.
And that's how they're going to let you, guide them and, follow your recommendations and all that. And I think we're missing that now in this market nowadays. We're missing that how many realtors are out there right now? It's a lot of them,
How many are properly trained and how many
exactly
are working the way they have to. And people ask us, what's your advice if I could give one advice to people, answer your phone.
Right.
I answer my phone. I'd say 50% of my calls say spam on it.
Right.
I've answered spam calls, and it's been the bank trying to verify a payment to one of our agents to make sure we initiated the wire. If I don't answer it, they don't get paid.
Right.
Which I don't like, because everybody, you close, you get paid the same day, ACH.
Right.
And I don't want that issue. So, it's a spam. If it's a spam and you don't like it, hang up on them.
Right.
But you don't know if it's the bank, if it's a client that's calling from their work, and this comes out of spam risk on the phone.
Right.
And then listings. I've called listing agents trying to get a hold of them 2-3 days.
Yeah.
No answer.
Well, I have one right now that I've been calling the lady since Thursday.
Well, that's where I come in as a broker, and I'll call their broker and light a fire.
Well, that was my next thing on my task, on my to-do list tomorrow.
Yeah.
By 9:30 a.m., I'm calling their broker.
Yeah.
Dude, it's a 780. You know, it's a 700,080. You know, it's a pretty good listing. So for that amount, I'll be answering my call all the time.
It's our moral responsibility. That's what's going on with the industry. If we are getting paid to sell that person's house, that should be your number one priority. You don't have 100 listings.
Correct.
You do. I don't know how we would do it, but work for that person. That is, like I said, I mentioned to you before. Spoke before about it. The first for sale by owner that I ever did.
Right.
That he ended up joining our company.
Right. You told me.
His name's Joe. I don't even know. It's been countless. I'd say 10 transactions somewhere around there that he's just recommended me people over 20 something years. That was my first for sale by owner ever. I remember I was in a listing class in a company I was at or whatever. Like back, no phones. The phones weren't like now either. Because I remember he called me. I hid in the bathroom to go talk to him because the instructor was like, I don't want nobody on their phone. Or I go down. He goes, just come list a house. 100 realtors have called me, and I gained his trust, and I went and then married a lady that had a few kids. He had a few kids. I sold his house. I sold her house. They bought a bigger one.
Oh, wow.
Then those kids grew up. Kids started calling me. They started recommending their in-laws. And just until the other day, I was working with them. Now he got his license, so now the work goes to him. I don't get no more recommendations, but now I can help him grow.
But you have him as an agent, which is really good.
And he's an awesome person. Yeah, he's getting referrals. He has some land up in Georgia too.
Okay.
So he just got right now, I think 250 acres.
Okay.
That he's getting a referral on from somebody over there that I just finished signing yesterday. So it's like, and like I say, you help people grow and it comes back to you.
Right.
And now whatever I can help him do, it's not my client anymore, but he's one of our agents. I can help him grow. You know, he grows, I grow, everybody's
of course.
happy, and I feel good to see people succeed.
No, I need to we talked about it before. Don't become a real estate agent transaction. You know, you just do one deal and then that's it. You don't see them anymore. Or they don't even recommend you. You know, just even like I have deals before. You know, like I told clients, listen, it's not a good time to sell. You know, hold it.
I've done that a million times.
And
honest, they appreciate. Well,
yeah.
And you'll meet him one day. I sold him a townhouse over there by Metro Zoo.
Right.
He had the townhouse. I go, Joe, how much is your mortgage now? He's like, no, my mortgage is like $700 and I have it rented for $2,000. I said, I wouldn't sell it. I said,
right.
Nowadays it's hard to buy a property and have money left over. So he thought about it with Mike. I admire your honesty. I appreciate it, but I want to buy this land up there in Georgia, whatever it is.
Right.
I want to sell this. I go, just so long as you know it's, in my opinion, because
right.
I would keep it if it was me. Because
of course.
No, man, I admire it. I know you make a living off this, and even more trust.
Right.
It's like, be honest. It comes back to you.
It comes back to you because I have a client too. He bought with these county subsidy programs, and you get a penalty. You cannot sell or do anything to a house for 5 years.
Wow.
He's already on the 3rd year, and he's like, oh my God, you know what? I wanted to sell because I'm moving to Georgia. He's moving to Atlanta, and you cannot rent it. You can't do anything about it. And I told him, listen, don't sell it. I will hold it. It's a year and a half. You're just gonna wait. So a lot of people think, okay, you shouldn't do that. You're losing a transaction. And I said, nah.
You're
getting trust.
And you're getting people. This is referral business.
I know. In a year and a half, when the time is up, and they're gonna be the first person in his head. Okay, now I'm ready to sell. Who am I gonna call? And they're gonna call me. And if they don't, it doesn't matter. At least I was honest and I have my conscience clear. And I know that if they ask him, he's gonna say, no, listen, the agent who sold me the house told me this, and and he was pretty honest about it. And that's why I say, don't become a transaction agent.
Like I go back to people back in the day. It was the door hangers and the bus benches and flyers and all that stuff. This is a referral business.
At the end of the day, yeah.
This is a referral business. The more people refer, you're going to get. Yeah, you could do all the advertising you want, everything else that you're going to get. But referrals, I've gotten so many referrals over the years.
Well, you know what? I know a lady that she was a regular agent, but she sells in Broward. She started again about 20 years ago, and she's about 60 something. Really nice lady, an American lady, and she started selling regular houses like us. But then she found a client who wanted to buy wholesale, to do flips.
Okay.
She started with that. She became really good at it. Now, she told me, I spoke with her last week because I'm looking for a wholesale for a client, and she told me, Miguel, you know what? Last year I made about $520,000. It was her income, and I said, Gloria, so how do you do that? That's freaking incredible. He said, well, I encountered this investor about 3 years ago, and he was so happy with the service that he's buying houses just with her, and that's the only client that she has.
Wow.
She have every little, every now and then, one or two, she referring to, her daughter. But I mean, she's been living out of that client for the past 3 years.
Wow.
So, and then she advised me, say, okay, so what was the good thing about it? Give me some advice. And I say, service and honesty. We found properties, in wholesale that it's a little bit different because you don't get paid commission, you just overprice, you put a price to the house and that's how you get your earnings. And she told me there was one house that the guy saw and he wanted to test her. The house, it was, for a flip, it was like 380 and he thought it was going to be sold for 420. So that agent who sold it was going to be about 40,000. And then he gave it to her and she did analysis and she only priced it for 390. No, about 387. She make only $7,000 out. And that just that one transaction, that honesty, it's what got his trust on her and kept on doing business with her. And he told her, so because you did that, and I put it as a test, now I fully trust you.
Of course. And like I said, it's a referral business.
Yeah.
You give service. You're honest. You tell them what you think that you would do, whatever it is. And it's our humble opinion. Some people may differ. They don't want an investment property. They don't sell it.
No, I know agents. I know colleagues that they are transaction agents. Even though we tell them, and they, when I do the coaching seminars, they come and say, "Listen, I don't care. I just want to sell them the property and just move to the next client." And I'm like, "Really?" And yeah, I'm comfortable like that, and I do, and they do pretty well. Yeah. They do pretty well, And I'm like, okay. They ask me for advice, advise them.
And then the person bought again with you and referred you 2 people, and those 2 referred you 1 or 2 or 3, and so on.
No, and he got to me, he got to me when he said, "Well, there's people for everything. This business, you can do everything. It's whatever you want." Because we normally coach, and you as a broker too, we normally coach. Hey, listen, earn the people's trust, get to know your customer, and everything that we're talking about. But they're agents, they do well by just being a transaction agent. Yeah. So that comes to my question, Mike. What would you recommend to the agents, new agents and seasoned agents out there, to come and enjoy our family here as a broker?
Well, I like the way you said family. We're here at Phantom Real Estate. We're a family. We are. Everybody tries to help each other. Like you say, you and me are right now brainstorming. A lot of brainstorming going on here. We talk to our lender. We talk to title. We talk to the attorney from title. Know what's going on with the changes. A lot of education. Every week we have in-person classes.
Right.
2 or 3 times a week. We bring in developers so the agents know what's going on out there.
Right.
Who's paying closing costs. What their incentives are, etc. From homestead to luxury high rises. I try to bring in a diversification of builders so we can know what's going on, and then the staff and the team we have.
Another part. Sorry to interrupt you. The other part that you're missing. It's we have very often the legal part of the contract.
Yeah.
By a lawyer. That he keep us updated.
She was here Wednesday.
Last Wednesday, yeah.
Yeah, going over a few little changes that were again.
Right. That if you're not on top of it, then you miss them.
Yeah.
And there's a big penalty if you miss those.
The changes came about August 17th with the whole whatever was going on. We had every form up to date. Then they changed it.
Yeah.
We revamped everything, and then inside our library on our platform. Everything you need is there, from buyer broker agreement, seller's broker to buyer broker, but everything is in there and is up to date. That's the thing. You can't just owning your brokerage is hard.
Right.
It's hard. Sometimes I think, man, I wish I was just an agent. Come in, have some coffee, and leave, and I don't have
get free education.
It is because it's my responsibility to make sure everybody's up to speed and up to date.
Right.
With what's going on to avoid any kind of problem.
Right.
For you guys and for me.
Right.
Because it eventually falls on my desk too, and I don't want it.
Yeah. So your advice to those agents, we're not only a family of new agents, we're a family of all type of agents. Right.
And like I said, and then we have the awesome staff that we have here.
Right.
They're always on the top and willing to help everybody and set up your things, and it's continuing education and support.
Right.
Training. Anybody can give you training, but where's the support when you have a question down
Exactly. Yep.
Is there somebody to help you? Is there somebody to answer your phone?
Right.
Is a broker there, or is he absentee? He puts his license on the wall and comes in once a week.
Right.
It's not the case.
Or like a lot of brokers, they don't know what's going on in the market right now. They don't know what's going on with the law.
Since I'm not mentioning your names, I'll mention the scenarios. I bumped into a lot of them.
Right.
I bumped into a lot in situations that I was like, wow. But it is what it is, I guess.
Right.
You pick up what you what you plant.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you gotta get that harvest. Yeah. Then if you ask me, what would I recommend to those agents out there? Like I said, not only new agents, also seasoned agents to be part of our family. It's that part that you mentioned, the support. It's you're not a team. You're not a number for that brokerage.
Yeah.
But I mean, my point of view, this my perspective is, you're not a number. Okay, you are number 158 agent.
Yeah.
No, you become a part of a big family.
You do.
And I see them. What I like about the company, it's I see other agents helping out each other. Not only the broker and the staff helping that agent, it's, that agent asks questions to other agents. Hey, listen, I have this listing and I'm stuck. And I heard them, and I see them saying, okay, let's do an open house together.
Yeah.
They encourage each other, because the way the you and Suheo and the staff make us see, it's that we're not a team, we're a family.
Yeah.
So we have that from culture of the company. It's, hey, we're here to help out each other.
Yeah, and I don't care if somebody sells $20 million a year, if they do one rental, they get
The same treatment.
They get the same treatment.
I
The
see
same
that,
help.
yeah.
Some people work
About
full-time,
that.
they can't come in all the time. Oh, I'm going to treat this person less importance because of the numbers.
Right.
Nobody hears a number.
Right.
Everybody's a person.
No, and what impressed me the most is the support, that you get support pretty much, 7 days a week. I sent a message to Suhel on a Saturday.
No, don't call me on Saturdays.
But believe it or not, they answer. Suhel answer.
Look, I'm not an OBGYN. There is no emergency here. But I've had people, I've had new agents at somebody's house. I'm sorry, they text me, sorry to bother you, but I have a question. I don't know how to answer it.
Right.
I answer it, unless I don't have the phone,
Right.
But I mean, I've come out of the pool to check contracts on a
Right,
Saturday,
right.
Make sure so they can send in a week.
Because, like you said earlier, this job, it's a 24/7 business, And sometimes we gotta send contracts on a Sunday afternoon, and when we're stuck on a subject that we need the support, and you guys give us that
Be on
support.
the road more and be more out there instead of in here. I mean, people will tell me, show me a rental on a Sunday. I'll show them a rental. It's not a rental. And I hear people, oh, it's just a rental. Oh, I don't get that. First of all, it's not only that, you're helping a family find a house.
Right.
Which is important, and you're building a rapport.
Right.
And either way, that tenant's gonna become a buyer. Why didn't you buy?
That's why I love rentals.
Let's
Yeah.
face it. Why didn't you buy? My tax, I'm 1099. I didn't make enough this year. Okay, this year if you make a little bit more, whatever the case is, you could buy. There's a credit, fix your credit. You work on it.
Right.
I have an agent here that her turnover rate on tenants is crazy. She's been
Wow.
working them for years. She just gets tenants and she works them and helps them if it's credit, if it's whatever it is they have to work on.
Right.
And in a year or two, they end up buying.
Right. That's why I like rentals, because you prepare them, you season it, you plan them, and then you get the harvest, a year and a half later.
Yeah, it is.
So, yeah.
But you got to get it back to, like we were saying about scheduling and having
Consistency.
It's you have to work it.
Right.
It's not just put the seed and don't put water on it. You have to put the seed, you have to water it.
Right.
That's what it is, and you have to be on top of it and keep continuous contact with that person.
Right.
And let's say you show somebody else, remind them, and when the time comes, do your homestead exemption.
Right.
They love that because you're reminding them. Oh, I almost forgot. Look at what, and so on and so forth. But
that's what I try to do. I try to, become the first thing they come to their head when it becomes to real estate or what to do with my property. It'll be my name on their head.
yeah,
And you create that with, creating a relationship and earning trust, and just be present as often as you can, with an email, with a text message, with, you have any questions, you bought your house, you bought your house 2 months ago.
everything takes work.
Yeah.
Your marriage relationship with your kid, a friendship. You
Right.
Trouble somebody, you got to work it. It's not just, oh, that's my friend. I'll call him in 10 years from now. No, you got to
Right.
work it.
Right.
So everything
Yeah,
is,
like you said, you got to put water on it,
Miguel, it was a pleasure
Thank you.
speaking with you again.
No, I can't wait for the next one.
Yeah,
What subject we will come up with.
Do the next one, maybe we'll bring the lender in and see what new programs is going on out there to
Yeah.
help some buyers or whatever it is to get.
Now, I would love to meet with him so I can ask him, okay, what was his point of view in the current market that we're at right now?
Yeah.
'Cause a lot of people are afraid of, when I call them or interview them to pre-qualify them, they're like, oh, but you know what the situation is right now.
Yeah.
So him as a lender, he will give us better answers.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you, man.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks for joining the Built for Legacy podcast.
No problem. I can't wait for the next one.
See you next time then.
Thank you.